Welcome to Hope Academy. My name is Mr. O, and today I am going to be covering the Practice Exam 1, Section 4 of the College Board Practice Exams, specifically numbers 24 to 26. This is the calculator portion for the math. Before I go ahead and get started, I want to explain that usually I do the problem real quick first to demonstrate that it's possible to do these questions real quick and explain in depth how to do the question and mention any concepts that you need to know prior in order to do these type of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So for number 24, okay, okay, yeah, okay. So for number 24, my final answer is A. I'm going to explain to you how I was able to do this question so quickly. But before I could even do that, there is a specific concept you must understand that applies to this question. And I'm going to use another sheet of paper just to show that. So right here, the important thing you have to note on this question is that if you notice right here, they mentioned that your center is 0, 4, your endpoint around the perimeter of the circle, or aka the circumference around the circle, whatever you want to call it. But the idea is that it's the border of that circle is 4 over 3, 5. But when we are talking about equations of a circle, the equation looks sort of like this: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals to r squared. And what does that exactly mean? That means that this hk is going to be representative of my center value. So that's why h is going to be 0, k is going to be 4. And thus why when I was doing this problem, right in the beginning, because I identified that, b and d are impossible because they're in the wrong symbol. It should be y minus 4 for certain based on this definition of a circle equation. So this is a circle equation. I should mention that. And so that automatically makes it 50% chance for me to get this question correct. But there's one other concept that also plays into part that I was able to solve real quick in order to make this possible, and it is the distance formula. So in order to find the r, which represents my radius right here, I need to find the distance from the center point to this endpoint, or aka the perimeter or the circumference area of the circle. And so that's where I knew right after the equation for that will be x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. This formula actually originates from the concept which equals to r for this scenario. This equation originates from the Pythagorean theorem, but the important thing is that when we are doing this type of question, that means that I have to label these as x1, x2, y1, y2. So for example, this will be x1, y1, sorry about that, and x2, y2. And thus why when I was computing, I just jumped steps to solve it real quick. You don't need to do that per se. It's just that I saved time by doing that mental math basis. So I knew that x1 was going to be 0 minus, and I did the 4 over 3 squared plus, and this is equals to r. And it's going to be 4 minus 5 squared. And thus, when I'm solving this, this is going to be negative 4/3 squared. Thus, I skipped that third step and knew right off I'm going to square this, which is 16 over square root of 3, which is 9, plus negative 1 squared, which is 1, which is going to equals to r. R is going to actually equal to, well, 16 over 9 plus 9 over 9. Just, whoops, let me move that up just to let you show you the work. And then the computation basically becomes 16 over 9 plus 9 over 9 just to get common denominators, which is going to equal to 25 over 9. And so I did that computation. I got 25 over 9 right here. If you notice right here in the end, top right here. But the part about this is that I actually realized that when I did this whole computation, I don't need that square root because that represents r. I need r squared. And thus why I knew right off I need to get rid of that square root to make this equation up here work. And so this is actually the value I need in that equation, not without the square root. That's why I knew right off the answer was going to be A for number 24. And that concludes my explanation for number 24. To continue on to the next question. So for number 25. So let's get started. So the equation, 8 meters, okay, I don't care about that. And here's initial, okay, after pulse, so it hits the ground. Oh, okay. Okay, well, I'm going to need a calculator for this. Okay. So for number 25, my final answer is D. And now I'm going to explain to you how I was able to get to this answer so quickly. So I didn't really care about the description. The description is useful to get context, but I've gotten used to the point where I could jump that step a little bit and just look for what they are asking me to do, which is stated that when does this ball hit the ground? AKA, when is it become 0 for your H, right? That's your height becomes 0. Or AKA, this is your x-intercept. And so when I'm looking for this type of question, what I first did was that I understood, and I'm going to write down the equation right here. I understood that when h equals to negative 4.9 t squared plus 25t, I'm going to make h equals 0, as I mentioned before. So that's what I exactly did. Afterwards, well, in order to solve for t, what I did was that I factored out the common multiples that exist, which is just t, negative 4.9 t plus 25. So afterwards, I sort of mental math this part. I understood that t is equals to 0 is one possible answer, but there's no answer choice right here, so I need to keep going to the next part. And thus, I made negative 4.9 t plus 25 equal to 0. AKA, if I subtract 25 on both sides and solve it out, you know, it's going to show you this. And then so afterwards, the important thing is that what I did on the calculator, and I'm just showing you on by hand, but afterwards what I did was I exactly did that. I actually inputted into the calculator negative, or just 25 over, because I knew the negatives would cancel out. And I found 5.1 to be the answer. So t equals to 5.1. So I looked at the answer choices where it's closest to 5.1, saw that D is the closest answer. And so that concluded how I was able to do this question. And so that concludes my explanation for number 25. To continue on to the last question. So for number 26. So catching notes. So type A. Okay. 20% more pear trees. Okay. 20% more A. 20% to B. Okay. Based on this one. Okay. Got it. Okay. So for number 26, my final answer is B. And now I'm going to go ahead and explain to you how I was able to get to this answer. So before you do so, you have to understand that this concept is based around the idea of rates. So the idea of rates is the concept where based on whether or not you're increasing up a certain amount or decreasing a certain amount, we need to adjust our multiple based on this idea. And so a lot of times, like for this example, for this question right here, they mention right here that she's sort of studying these two type of pairs, and notice that A has 20% more production of pairs comparison to B tree. And then ask if you have 144 pairs for A, so for this one, there's 144 pairs. The question is asking you how many did B make. And so at least when I was given this scenario right off, I understood that because this is a 20% increase, from that, B times 1.2 will equal to A. And how do I go about getting this equation right here? And this is how I was able to do so. This value right here, 1.2, is relevant to the idea of 1 plus or minus R. Why is it 1, specifically 1 plus or minus my rate? The reason why that is the case is because everything is based on 1. So what I mean by that is that the equilibrium is based on 1. So like if, for example, if I did 3 times 1, it's 3. It stays the same. If I have $500 and I tell you that, oh, there's no growth rate, well, technically I'm multiplying by 1 and it stays at $300. And so I didn't gain money, but I didn't lose money. And then so rate, aka the 20%, or aka for this question, I inputted 0.2, which is the decimal value that you must put as your rate value, will be the sort of value that is being taken into account. But because we stated that A made more more pairs, we're going to add 20% to that stability of 1 that exists when it comes to B. So afterwards, what happens is that once I added that 20%, I need to make sure to, be careful on, plugging it in and plugging in the right values here and there. And so if you logic this question out, the important thing to make sure is that it logically makes sense. So if I'm doing 1.2, that means that it increases my b and will equal to a. If you multiply a value and it doesn't logically make sense that why is it increasing, why it should be decreasing, or something of that sort, most likely you're messing up on something at that point. But since 1.2b equals to a, I could literally say 1.2b equals to 144, going back to the question. Since we know that they stated a has 144 pairs, how many does b have? And thus why what I did was 144 divided by 1.2, found out that b equals to 120 pairs, and thus how that answer for number 26 will be b. And that concludes my explanation for 26, and that concludes my explanation for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel or like our Facebook page so that we can continue to make content like this for you. Have a wonderful day.